everyone. Welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I am so happy to have my former mastermind client here with us today. The mastermind that actually just ended a few months ago, Tamara Donahoe. Hi, Tamara. Thanks for being here with us.
Hi, so glad to be here.
I'm so excited to talk to you. The last time we had a private call during the program, I was in tears. That doesn't always happen to me. That really says a lot to hear a client speak and witness your transformation and like really be brought to tears. So I'm so excited to get into it today. But the first question I have, and I want you to share about your story, and that's a little bit of what brought me to tears. Um, you're into this movement medicine, dance, yoga, mindfulness, meditation, somatic work, doing all this great work in the world. And I'm wondering, what was your story? What brought you onto your true path? How did you get here?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think it really all started when my mom passed away about 9 years ago now. And it was quite suddenly. She was diagnosed with cancer and it was already stage 4. And, but we really didn't think that she was going to pass away, to be honest with you. She was such a fighter and so positive, and so she was going through her treatments, and I was there for her along the way, but we really didn't think that we were going to lose her. And she got sick one day, and then it was just weeks later that she was gone. Yeah, it was crazy. So that at that time, I completely felt like I lost my joy. Like I didn't even want to smile. And my mom was such a big personality and so funny and always dancing and all the things. So I just felt like I got robbed. I felt like that all got taken away from me. And I kind of went into a dark depression and I was drinking a lot. And I really had no idea how to cope. I had no tools, really hadn't dealt with anything like that before. And so one day I walked into a random bookstore here on Galveston Island and I found this book called The Energy Codes. And it's by Dr. Sue Morter, but it's all about moving energy through your body for certain reasons, one way or the other. And I was so drawn to the book and I bought it. And it ended up leading me into yoga. And I got my yoga certification a couple years later just for my own education. So that's kind of where I started, understanding the body and the breath and that we are energy. And at the same time, I still felt depressed. I still felt like something was missing, and of course it was. But as the years went by, I wasn't really moving through my grief at all. I think I was kind of suppressing it, and I was just really having a tough time. But here we are a couple years later, and I found somatic dance randomly. It was very odd. And once I tried it and started dancing again, it just sparked this joy in me again. And then I was brought back to when I was a young girl and so grateful that my mom put me in dance. It was almost like I forgot that I was a dancer. I was in dance since I was 2 years old until about 14 or 15, which I stopped to play sports and go on about life. And when I started dancing again, just a year or so ago, it brought me back to my real joy. And I can't believe I ever stopped dancing. And I'm so glad, like I said, that my mom put me in dance at such a young age. And I was always center stage and I loved being in the spotlight, honestly. It was comfortable for me. And so I just now I can't imagine my life without dance. It is truly how I get through my days sometimes, especially my grief. I can feel the sensations welling up and then I dance with those. And it's a beautiful process that happens. And also working with a lot of rage and anger that was inside me. Um, I didn't realize that was really there until I started dancing and I could actually feel what I needed to feel. So, dance is just such a safe place to process what we've been too afraid to process, really. And at the same time, I am completely present when I'm dancing. I feel comfortable in my body. I love my body when I'm dancing. So it's just brought me to this new appreciation for myself. And yeah, I couldn't imagine my life without it. And of course, I'm sharing this dance on the island. I teach a weekly class, and I'm excited to see where that goes.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, I love hearing this. And yeah, it reminds me of, I was always kind of just a natural mover, always played sports and dancing. And when I was in my like late teens and early 20s and then pretty much ever since then, I found like the dance scene, like the rave, it started with the rave scene and then it was clubs and then it's like, the burner scene and just yeah, like the what we would call like party dancing. But I wasn't the huge partier. I was just into the movement. And I remember just always feeling high, no drugs, it was just like that high and that presence. And um, I remember like the first time I ran that didn't involve a sport, like I actually went on a run. I was like, "Oh wow, this feels like dancing." That presence of just everything, like the crystal clarity in the eyes, everything seems like it's moving still, like it's just also still. So I love it. And yeah, like the amount of joy it brings. And I do believe it's a big medicine that's needed. I mean, there's so much of this trend over the years moving into kind of the physical, the body, the somatic, which, by the way, coincides with Uranus and Taurus. But just the awareness that we have to move this energy that's stuck in our body. And I think so many people suffer from pain, um, sicknesses, illnesses, disease, because of a lot of stuck energy. I mean, yes, of course, we can't say it's all that. Although I am a believer that it's mostly that. But the more and more the science is catching up with this and realizing like, oh, it's not just like something off within the body. It's like, well, what else is happening in the energy system and the emotions and the spirit? So I'm curious if you would like to share a little bit about that. Like, because I know you had mentioned chronic pain and a journey with pain. And, it's interesting because you became a trainer and a yoga teacher and, now dance and facilitating all this. I'm curious, like, has the pain just gone away or is it just a different way of living with it?
Yeah, really good question. I I thought about it the other day. It's been about 13 years that I've been dealing with chronic pain. And um, I think that's probably what led me to yoga as well. I was looking for some sort of relief or some way to deal with it, at least temporarily. And along the journey, I I definitely started to understand that it was emotional for me specifically. And I would kind of have flare ups during more stressful times in my life. The pain would be more intense and more solidified in my body. And then other times it would be more subtle or it seem like it's not even there. And so I kind of started just noticing these ebbs and flows of my pain. And just, I really wanted to try everything that I could. And I tried acupuncture and, of course, strengthening and stretching and doing all the things. So along this journey, I gained a lot of knowledge because I was just determined to learn about all the different ways to help myself. And I didn't want to drink anymore. I was definitely using that kind of to relax, we could say, but it wasn't helping my mental health at all. And so I think the first step in my journey was quitting alcohol, honestly, because I understood how much inflammation was tied to my alcohol consumption and then how much my pain would flare up with the more inflammation in my body and stress. So that was really the first step. And I kind of naturally moved away from alcohol. I just didn't, it's just, I knew it wasn't for me anymore. So once I did that, then I was able to just uh, really come to an understanding once again that I needed to move it. I needed to move it. I needed to give it attention instead of wanting it to go away so badly and wanting to change it. It was almost like, well, now I know that it's about accepting what is in this very moment and not accept and not, not wanting to change it and not wanting to um, make it something that it's not. And so acceptance was the very first step, that this is who I am and this is what's happening in my body. And no, it doesn't feel good. And there's a lot of fear that comes along with it, where you stop doing things because you're afraid of the pain that you're going to feel. So then you stop doing the things that you love, including dancing and yoga, because you're afraid of what might come. And so just along the journey, especially with my recent Vipassana 10-day course, more than ever, I understand that my pain is simply arising and passing away. It comes and it goes. And if you really tune into it and you really give it your attention, you'll notice that it's this pulsing sensation that rises up and then dissipates. And then sometimes it goes away completely. And sometimes there's heat. And sometimes there's a prickly sensation. And then sometimes there's nothing. And so I'm just understanding that, just like the universal law of nature, everything that arises must pass away. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I have a new relationship with my pain. I've accepted it, and I know that it will eventually pass away, and it is temporary. And I am able to sit longer without fidgeting and moving. And I used to be like, oh God, I got to change positions. I'm in pain. And now it's just like, oh, hey, old friend, I know you're there. I hear you. I see you. And the more I give it attention, loving attention, the more I'm finding it's actually fading away. And so it's just part of my life now. And that's okay.
Oh, I love hearing this story. I
Mhm.
love, thank you so much for sharing it. I was just telling someone the other day, I was like, yeah, I've been healing this one injury for 10 years. And honestly, it hasn't flared up in a long time. So, but when it started to change is exactly that. When I got to the place of like, wait, instead of just hating it and wanting it to go away, maybe I could try loving it. And it was weird. It was like suddenly it was almost like I just didn't even notice that it got better. And I was like, "Oh, wait, I haven't felt that pain in a while." So thank you for sharing it, because I know there's so many people out there who suffer from chronic pain and injuries and other issues, and it's hard. It's like the human mind wants to just get rid of, but it's the opposite. And this is such a metaphor for all of life, right? Like true integration, loving what is, like realizing that it's here. I see you. And by the way, the Vipassana, amazing. Congrats. Because yeah, I forgot that you were on that. It's like so amazing, life changing. I am like, I was gonna try to get into one this year at the last second and didn't, but next year, a most amazing thing. So I wanted to talk about when you first came to the mastermind. And I think this is partially what had me in tears. It's so funny because you did this training with Saad Simone, who I never actually like knew him, but I knew him. We both lived in New York City at the same time, and this is back in like the early days of what we would call like the wellness, mindfulness movement, like starting in these cities where it was like, oh, I'm going to a sound bath and a talk and a meditation. Like that was a very unusual thing back then, but there were a group of us that would go to these things, and it was just the most amazing thing. And I saw him speak at one of these, I wish I knew what year it was, probably like 11 years ago or something like that. But anyways, so of course I've followed his work over the years, and he blew up and he's just famous and written books and just doing great, like making a lot of great content. And when we spoke, you'd done this training and I didn't even know it, which is, by the way, very unusual for me to not know like my clients are in a training, because I usually know what they're up to. But it's a very normal thing. Like I've had clients kind of go into go into their own initiations. It's kind of part of what happens when you're really coming into your deeper alignment and your what I believe to be your soul's calling. It's like sometimes it does take kind of like going into the cave. There was someone else in your mastermind who actually there were two people, but one in particular was in just a really dark, it was like grief portal, like lost a parent and and it was like, we're here for you, but do what you need to do. And he came out the other side and it just like all of a sudden has blown up. But yeah, let's talk about this because you came to the mastermind, and this is also very common. Like wanting a little more clarity in what you wanted to do. You had some clarity, you were already out there doing things, and it was like, okay, I want to make this a business. And a lot of people come in saying that, like, I have ideas and I don't know where to start and how to put them together. But then, it's like something happened. So let's talk about your journey. What was your experience? Because you do seem like a totally different person, which also, by the way, is a very normal thing. And I would say it's actually a great thing, right? It's like a 1 year journey, and it's not just the mastermind. It's about like all of life is realigning and kind of, letting go of what doesn't serve and allowing you to become more of your true self. But yeah, let's talk about the journey. Where were you at the beginning of the 12 months and what shifted by the end of it?
I, at that time, I had just ended an 8-year relationship quite abruptly. Sold our house, moved into a little bitty apartment all by myself. I was literally at my rock bottom, and I was like, all right, now I have all this time and all this energy to spend on myself. I want to heal. And at the same time, I want to create a business that is aligned with who I am. And I came from the corporate world years and years ago, and I have a marketing degree, and I didn't care much for marketing anymore. I felt like it was all like smoke and mirrors and just, what can we do to get somebody to buy something? And wasn't all about that anyway. So I definitely have always had an entrepreneurial spirit. And so I had no idea what to do next. And I came across you. Actually, I found a podcast and I listened to that. And then I found out you were a business coach, and I was just so inspired. So that's actually how I found you. But yeah, for the first couple of months, you had us doing some really deep, like shadow work. And it opened up my eyes big time as far as what I really needed to work on. And I had never dug that deep before. And all this stuff started coming up, and I realized, and you helped me realize that, our story and the things that we've overcome is really our medicine, is really how we can offer service to the world by using the lessons that, we've learned in our own experiences. And that just totally rang so true for me once I started digging a little deeper and understanding my relationships and the way I was raised. And like, we went through all of this stuff. And so it took me a while before I really got started, like in the program with the things that you were having us do, because I felt like, wow, there's still so much digging and uncovering I need to do before it really feels aligned. And then that's when I came across Saw's training, and I went through the somatic dance training, and you had no idea, because I'm like, okay, this is the little missing piece for me and I've got to do this. But going through your program, it really kept me accountable, because I had all these ideas, but it was like everything was just floating around, and I wasn't getting organized. I wasn't making myself some sort of schedule. And so it's just the best thing that I ever could have done, truly. And now I'm starting to launch my offerings, and I'm starting to put it out there. And so women actually know how I can help them. And it's really exciting. And started my newsletter and I'm communicating with my people. That was always something I wanted to do. So all the things that I wanted to do, I'm making it happen now because I found your program. So, yeah.
So good. And it's yeah, like you found yourself on this deeper level. I mean, that's in the end, that's kind of what it's about. Yeah, there's strategies and there's accountability and organization and the whole like 3D, creating community, communication, the newsletter, the offer. But what really moves the needle is like just allowing yourself to be in your true, it's like the dance, right? Like allowing yourself to just dance and be your free self, like the freedom. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, I do think entrepreneurship is one of the deepest spiritual journeys there is, especially this kind of entrepreneurship. It's like soul work that you're doing with yourself, with others, putting out there in the world. And it can be so scary to be seen at this level, but I love it. Like I remember one of the first posts that you posted of you dancing, and I was like, posting on Instagram of you dancing. Like I haven't even done that yet. I've wanted to, but haven't gotten around to that. But it's just so beautiful. So let's talk about what it is you offer now. Which, by the way, off camera, I was like, I think you should start a static dance where you live. But
Yeah.
yeah, what is it that you offer, and how do you work with? I think you said women, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I enjoy working with women. And as I've worked with more and more women, it seems I don't want to limit myself, but it's like perimenopausal age, like 37 to 42, 45-ish, which is right where I'm at. We all go through something that I'm not even sure I can put into words, but this is a big time in our lives where things kind of get realigned. And that's where I was. And I realized that that's who I really want to work with. Women that were going through the same things that I was. And maybe they had lost a parent, maybe not, but more about coming to terms with where their life was at that point, if that's where they wanted to be. And if it wasn't where they wanted to be, I can help them find the courage to make big changes in their lives to get where they want to be. And they can honor themselves. They can do this without betraying themselves, which is exactly what I did. Um, I betrayed myself over and over and over again. And so I am committed and determined to support other women and guide them through this time in their lives so they don't break their hearts the way that I broke my own heart. And that was probably the biggest lesson of all. And now I've come through that and I'm on the other side. And all I want to do is just be of service to other women, to support them. And so that's what I do. And I have a weekly dance class. It's somatic activated healing is Saw's method, but we call it somatic dance for freedom at this little studio that I teach at on the island. So yeah, I've got my weekly dance thing going on. It's growing. And then on a bigger scale, I work one-on-one with a lot of women. And I have a 3-month program, and it's called The Power Is You. And that just allows us a lot more time to spend together one-on-one. We meet online, or if you're local, we can meet in Galveston. But yeah, that's what I do. 3-month program, one-on-one work. I'm also a personal trainer. So it all kind of goes together. We get healthy from the inside out. I consider myself a holistic coach. We even talk about sleep. We talk about nutrition, all the things, nervous system regulation, and then moving, and then simply finding your joy again. Most people will say that they would like to find more joy. So we work on that too.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot that happens at that age, and I want to explore a little bit more what you mean by betray yourself. And like you just also said, the nervous system regulation. I mean, that I feel like this is kind of why the whole world needs dance and needs movement and needs this kind of any kind of movement really, but like somatic work and like you just said, sleep. I feel like there's so many dysregulated people out there. Not to like point the blame or, call out anybody, but it's like our whole society, you see it like just driving around. People are just like so on edge and there's so much anxiety. And, of course, like being in a lot of psychedelic spaces, you see it a lot, like just how many people are very not in their body and ungrounded. And it's just such a key to everything, and I feel like it's the path to freedom and a path to joy. But yeah, let's talk about that. Like, what is the experience of when someone, especially at that age, is betraying themselves? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, specifically in my situation, I I had no connection to my core, to my actual inner being. Like you said, most people are not connected to their bodies. I was living a life very disconnected from my body. Um, and we can use labels. We can call me a people pleaser, or we can say I have had an avoidant attachment style in my relationship as well. And so it was easy for me to avoid things, avoid conflict, avoid conversations. Um, and I was very much tuned in to what my partner needed and what my partner was going through, or what my father needed and what my father was going through, and anyone in my life, actually. I was more tuned in to what everyone else's needs were and really had no idea what my own needs were. As at that time, a 35-year-old woman, I really couldn't tell you what I needed versus what I wanted. Um, and for the first time, I was able to actually identify those things. And it sounds crazy, but I was like, wow, I do like this, and I don't like this, and I want this, and I don't want that. And I just started realizing, because I had no idea what my needs were, how I can meet them myself, I just kind of acted like they didn't even exist. And I somehow thought I would get pleasure by meeting other people's needs and being there for them and being what they needed. And I found myself completely lost. Like I said, disconnected from my body, disconnected from who I was completely. Like I said, I just completely forgot that I even knew how to dance. I didn't even know where that person was. So it was mostly in my relationship that I discovered this, but just doing things that I didn't want to do. And just for the sake of pleasing someone else. And on a larger scale, that was in my career, and that was in my friendships, that was in all of the aspects of my life. And I realized how isolated I felt. I didn't have community. Um, I could go on and on. So, yeah, just I understood what my needs were. And now I'm able to put myself first as far as making sure that I'm taken care of and that I am honoring my needs before I worry about anyone else. And that makes me a better friend and a better partner and a better coach, all the things. So that's what I mean about betraying myself. And I see women do this over and over and over, especially in our relationships with men. And so this is where I can help. And we don't have to do this anymore to ourselves, because at the end of the day, maybe we've harmed another person, but you're harming yourself way more deeply than you ever could imagine. So no more betraying ourselves.
Ah, thank you for sharing. I mean, I remember going through this myself and getting to a place of being like, oh, wait, like, what is it to actually be in touch with my own needs? I was very good at knowing what I wanted, but not good at knowing what I needed and expressing it, and also holding that boundary, like holding the kind of sacred boundary of like the yes and the no. And yeah, it's funny, I've done so much work around this and studied it and gone deep into the trauma patterning and the somatic work around this, and how it manifests, like what was the root of that, and there's, of course, there's no like one place, but to go into the healing, it's not even about the story, but like, how do you heal this? What is the pathway to the freedom where, yeah, it does make you a better coach. I literally just published a podcast episode on this because, we still, as humans, like we'll still slip, I did this recently, a few months ago. It was something that I knew I shouldn't have said yes to, and I did, and it just didn't turn out well. And it was, betraying myself. And, it's like, oh, lesson learned, sometimes it takes many lessons. But yeah, it is a very prevalent issue, concern in our society, especially with women. It seems to be predominantly women, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I think the pattern does run that way, where it's kind of a lot of the imbalance and the roles of, well, here's your role in our world. And I do think it makes us more empowered and just stronger. And also, I've taught this to clients. I don't know if it came up in your mastermind, but around really holding your own boundaries for what you want in your business, like what feels good to you. I use this diagram of the pyramid where it's like you and the clients have to be balanced. It can't just be you giving or you undercharging or you just letting clients, I don't know, like text you at 3 a.m, or whatever it is. Like you have to hold a certain level of a container, and that actually makes people feel safer. It's like letting children run free to do whatever they want. I don't know, they might get burned, but if you're holding them and teaching them like, oh, that might actually hurt you, or whatever it is, it's like then they actually are held and feel safer to then be more free. And I'm curious, in the somatic dance work, other than just dancing and moving, like, is there any of this that comes up around, processing through these patterns that we hold or the traumas or, like any of this? Does any of this come up in the work, or is it more about like, doesn't matter what the trauma is, which on some level, I say that. I'm like, the story doesn't matter, actually. Getting to the root of it to then do the change work to like kind of reprogram how you react to it is important. But the whole story, that's like a whole other thing. It really doesn't matter. But I'm curious, like, how is this woven into the somatic dance work, or is it at all?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. We do not get into the story of what happened because at that level in the body, it doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't. It's important that and we were talking about nervous system regulation, so before we even start dancing, we get ourselves into the space where we can start to sense those sensations that want to arise. And sometimes at first, maybe you just feel your own heartbeat or a little tingling in your hands. But you just tune in to whatever is in that moment. And I found out starting that way, actually getting regulated before we start moving our bodies, it keeps the students from going back into the stories. And we're human and we have thoughts and our minds do what they want. And so, of course, you're going to be dancing or I'm going to be instructing, and there's going to be thoughts that creep in, and we'll find ourselves going into the story.
Okay, we are back after a little technical difficulty. Well, anyways, so yeah, we were talking about, regulating the body and regulating before going into the dance space, and that the story doesn't matter. And it's interesting you say that because I have been experiencing being in these dancing containers where we do some like presencing work beforehand and regulation and actually like, just little moving the body instead of just going in and like going crazy. What does that end up doing when there's more of a regulation and then you go into the somatic dance work? Or what do you call it? Somatic freedom dance? No, somatic
Yes.
dancing for freedom.
Yeah, exactly. And it's freedom, it's liberation from the bondage of our minds, the way we hold ourselves back and those limiting beliefs. So yeah, we do get into a more regulated state before we even try to work in the body to see what is coming up, because the body is allowing these sensations to rise up because we're ready to feel them. Otherwise it wouldn't be rising up. So your body is more intelligent than, we give it credit for. So it is important to get into that regulated state. So I mean, the sensations could possibly throw you into an emotional, uh, I don't know, reaction, we could say. So, yeah, it's important that we get regulated first. And we do that with our breath. Paying attention to our breath or breathing in a particular way is how we regulate ourselves. And then with the actual method, Saw has combined meditation, dance, movement, we could say, with mantra, spoken affirmations, and breath. And then all of this combined actually kind of creates a movement pathway in the body for this energy to move up and out of you, to be released, to be processed, whatever we want to say. Um, and it works. And it is a beautiful process. And sometimes we do have an emotional release, or we're sweating, or some people yawn. All sorts of things can happen. And all verbalization is welcome. If your body wants to make a sound, let it make a sound. So regulate yourself first, and then you're more likely to surrender to the experience, surrender to what is, like I mentioned earlier. And that's what most people out there aren't doing, which is why we seem so distracted and impatient and all the things. We're not accepting what is right in front of us. We're only worried about how we want to change it, or what's coming next, or what happened before, and making comparisons. So yeah, the dance is just a beautiful metaphor for life, accepting what is and allowing it to do what it needs to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and that getting caught up in the future, it's like Buddhism 101, the craving, they call it craving and aversion, at least the way I learned it. But it's like being caught up in the future causes anxiety, and caught up in the past causes depression. And so many people, at least here in this Western world, complain of anxiety and depression. And it's like, well, it's very actually simple to find this kind of you call it relentless joy. And I remember, because I was very much like you, like I went through just so much, it's like death of my dad, and just kind of losing joy. And I, kind of questioning, did I ever even have joy? Depression, numbing with alcohol, just looking for all these answers, just to find like the most simple path that gave me like real relentless joy was moving my body, being aware of the breath, being present, very simple mindfulness practices. It doesn't have to be like a long meditation every day, but just and bringing it into like the daily life. It's great to go on these 10-day meditation retreats, or have that practice, but the real practice is bringing it in to all the time. So I'm curious about the mantra part of it. I love this because I know he does a lot of this in his work. But when you lead your class that you teach, like, are you the one like leading the mantras? Like, you kind of throw an affirmation out there and you have people, is it like they're repeating it out loud, or they're just saying it in their mind, or?
Yeah. And so, well, first, the reason that we use the mantras is that we are speaking in a way that we believe it to be true. So what we are speaking is the truth for us, and we're calling in what we want for our futures. So we speak with intention, but we will speak this together, and we will usually speak while we're doing a certain somatic posture or move, we could call it. So for example, I am enough. So there will be a movement paired with the mantra, but the mantras are relevant to the moves and the emotional state that we're trying to create and flow through. So I do take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to plan a class, like getting the music right, the moves. It's a lot, but I love it. But the mantras are just like that cherry on top. And yeah, when you bring the verbalization into it along with your body, yeah, it adds another element. And then we'll drop the move and we'll drop the mantra and we'll actually dance out the mantra in our body. So how does it look? How does it feel to know that you are enough? Dance that. And so that might
Mm.
be one of my favorite parts of the method, really.
So fun. So fun. I love it. I'm so glad you're doing this. It makes me so happy to witness you. Because I remember you were at the beginning of the mastermind. And this is not just you. There were many people like, okay, I'm not really clear. I'm feeling kind of stuck. It's a very, again, like this is normal. And everybody goes through it as we grow too, as we expand into the next iteration of our business. There's always this feeling of like stuckness because something's growing. The seed has been planted in the soil, and of course it's stuck. It's down there like germinating. But to see you like now leading this and talking about this and coming out, into the world with this work is so beautiful. Now I'm curious, what do you feel like, in that journey of being in the mastermind and of course going through the training, I'm always curious, like what other benefits did it have? Not just like having a business and putting yourself out there and now teaching this class, but did you notice anything else in your life shift and change that maybe has nothing to do with business and clients and making more money or?
There was a time when you spoke about synchronicities and noticing those and becoming aware of those. And I I became more aware of those synchronicities in my life. All of a sudden, things started feeling magical. Like when it was aligned, I would get a sign, it felt like, and I would follow those signs. And I found it always led me to either something inspirational or some little lesson that I needed to learn. So now I follow those coincidences, which they are not, but I follow those and I'm finding that they don't lead you astray. You might think at first, but no, they're there for a reason. So yeah, follow the synchronicities, don't overlook them. And I feel more connected to my mother more than ever because of the work that I'm doing now. And obviously, or maybe not obviously, but this trauma within me and this pain, it's definitely generational. And I understand why my mom got cancer and what she was holding on to because I learned a lot after she died about her life. And so, more and more every day that goes by, I just realize that I'm doing the right thing and I have to follow the signs and the synchronicities. And it's just confirmation that, maybe I couldn't help my mom, but I can help all these other women and myself along the way. So, yeah.
Mm. Oh my God, so beautiful. Yeah. And that's huge, this is the real, like the real benefits of coming into your true path. I love asking that question because I see it in pretty much every one of my clients. It's like maybe it didn't turn out the way you wanted, or maybe your business took a U-turn or went the other way, but there's usually like when you're paying attention to the signs from the universe and synchronicities, the path that's guiding you. Like I've seen the wildest stuff start to show up in my clients' lives. And a lot of times it is like deep healing. I've had clients, chronic illnesses just suddenly heal, clients meeting their life partner, manifesting homes, like opportunities, and yeah, like family healing, generational healing. It's all, there is no such, I don't believe there's such a thing as just business or just work. It's all interconnected. It's like, it's our true selves. So thank you for sharing. And this is so beautiful. Now, I want to hear like what's next for you. It's kind of, are we halfway through? We're like a quarter of the way through this year, 2025. What do you have coming up? What are your dreams for the rest of the year, for next year? And, tell people a little bit more about I know you've already mentioned what you offer, but yeah, like that and where they can find you and get to work with you.
On a not work note, I'm looking forward to my next skydive. I went for the first time back in December, and I'm such a 90s kid, and so it was something I've always wanted to do, and so I just jumped out of an airplane. It was amazing. And I met so many cool people, and they found out I was a yoga teacher. So now they want me to come back and take them all through a yoga class, and then we'll all jump together. And
So
so it's
cool.
got me like, I want to do yoga for skydivers and make this little program. And I want to start a YouTube channel, and I'm going to put some stuff out there. And then I was thinking about some local workshops here on the island regarding like somatic dance for grief or working through that rage and that anger. Just specific little workshops for specific things. Um, and I'd recommend joining my newsletter. I do a really good job of staying in contact. I tell funny stories and maybe not so funny stories, but you really get to know me on a personal level. And and then we keep in contact that way because I'm not always on social media. Sometimes I take little breaks. But Instagram is where you can find me. It's just my first and last name. I'm sure we'll probably link it somewhere, but
Everything will be
I'm
linked in the show notes
always
here. Yeah.
good. So I'm always putting on Instagram what I'm up to, but my newsletter would be the best way to really connect with me. And then yeah, so you can DM me on Instagram or send me an email, and we can connect and see if you are interested in my program, what I have to offer, and if we will work well together. Just give me a call.
Yeah, great. Well, we'll have your links to your newsletter, your Instagram, and all your offerings right here in the show notes. And anyone who's in the Galveston area, I don't know what else is near Galveston, but I say,
Houston.
yeah, it's worth driving. I mean, I don't know. I used to drive 8, 9 hours to go dancing. So I'm like, if you're close by, spend a day, go, make a vacation out of it. I'm so glad you're doing this work. I think it's so important. And please stay in touch. Let us know what's coming up, and keep moving, keep sharing your unique medicine. This is definitely what we need, especially, oh man, movement for grief, movement for healing, for freedom. I love it. Thank you so much for being with us, Tamara. It was such an honor to have you in the mastermind, to witness your growth. Like, this is it. I think for anybody who wants to be a coach or a healer or feels the calling to make a difference in the lives of others, like, this is the beauty of it, is you get to watch people transform, and hold that space. So thank you so much for being your authentic self and sharing yourself here. Aw.
Yeah. And thank you so much for all of your guidance. And I really wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your program. And so, yeah, I will definitely keep in touch, and you'll know all the fun things that I have coming.
Thank you.